One of the peculiarities that distinguishes Fascism from other contemporary ideological systems is the desire to claim a character that is not only political, but also spiritual. This led Fascism to enter a course of collision with other realities that had to do with the spiritual sphere and the highest aspirations of man, such as religious phenomena. In the 1930s, in a time in which both Fascism and the Church were gaining hegemony all around Europe, the cultural and political control of its societies was left in their hands. As a result, we will see the rise of fascist leaders and their cooperation with many religious groups. The main objective of totalitarianism is the subordination, integration, and homogenization of the governed society. One of its most important elements is the sacralization of politics. That took the form of political religion, which is a form of religion that, through the deification of a secular entity, sanctifies an ideology, movement, or political regime. It tends to reshape the individual and the masses, provoking an anthropological revolution that must lead to the regeneration of the human being and the creation of a new man. Therefore, it cannot accept the coexistence with other ideologies or political movements. With modern totalitarianism, it was created a system of symbolic and sacred references that included the whole of human experience, as traditional religions did before. The fascist regimes, in addition, developed a political liturgy that in its dramatic aspect clearly refers to the traditional Christian model. The nationalist fervor aimed the political style replete with symbolism, flags, uniforms, collective rituals, the cult of a supreme leader, the public celebration of heroes and myths, and the fanatical devotion of the militants. In the case of Italy, the Mussolini movement was initially criticized by the Church, since it was openly anti-clerical and hostile. But this began to change after Fascism came to power. In fact, Mussolini realized how essential the support of Catholics was to consolidate himself. Then, a climate of mutual trust was built with the signing of the Lateran Treaty of 1929, which expressed the recognition of full ownership, exclusive and absolute authority, and sovereign jurisdiction over the Vatican. In addition, the Church could convert the Catholic religion into an object of education in all schools, of every order and grade. Both for the Church and for the fascist regime, the Lateran Pacts were a great success. However, different evaluations of the agreements soon emerged. The clash between the Church and Fascism occurred in 1931, when the totalitarian pretensions of the regime turned against the former. This provoked the aggression and devastation of various Catholic educational circles. On the other hand, it showed a very firm position of the papacy, who was determined not to lose the connection between the ecclesiastical hierarchy and the popular masses. After the crisis of Catholic action, in the years 1932 to 1938, the relations between the Church and Fascism were cordial. But in 1938, at the time of the enactment of racial laws, a new and heavy confrontation broke out due to fascist anti-Semitism. Nonetheless, the collaboration between the Holy See and the fascist regime continued to be a solid alliance of convenience whose main objective was the containment of communism. When Francoist Spain began, the Church and the Falange worked together in the structuring of a formative educational program, in which the Spanish culture would have to develop itself from the conception of national Catholicism. To succeed in this project, history will be the leading subject in schools, and pupils will be studying a biased syllabus. Also, new private and religious schools were built, so laicism was almost extinguished from education, and it was being replaced by elitist institutions. But despite these efforts, there were also disjunctive opinions between the Church and the Phalangists. This was partially attributed to the gradual opening policies that the dictator was introducing during his last years in the economic and cultural fields. Since the 1950s, the Minister of Education, Joaquín Ruiz Jiménez, challenged Franco as well as the Church's monopoly on schooling. Subsequently, education slowly became more egalitarian, and its former connotations were replaced by much wider syllabi, in which nationalist principles were no longer the only ones. To conclude, we could say that fascist regimes went hand in hand with the Church, even if fascism tried to present itself as an authentic religion. As we have analyzed, the Church helped Francoist Spain to strengthen the nationalist feeling through education, something that was only possible with the economic and social engineering policies of the moment. In the case of Italy, fascism was recognized as belonging to a sphere superior to the political one. In this perspective, the ideological statements highlight how fascism pretended to declare that it was not alien to the religious sphere. Finally, that brings us to the following question. Could we consider fascism as another religion, or is it embedded in the church?